our music writer, also a movies writer, Adrian Mack, filling us in on May Day. It's very exciting to see an Asian pop band coming to Vancouver and playing such a large venue. One of the city stories that we were covering at the Georgia Strait this week involved the view corridors in the city of Vancouver. That if you look, say, from Queen Elizabeth Park over to the North Shore Mountains, you can see clear pathways where the public has unobstructed views of looking north. And this was really developed and enhanced by a former planning director named Ray Spaxman in Vancouver, who was in the 1970s and 80s. And then he was succeeded by Larry Beasley, who was also a very strong planner who tried to preserve the view corridors. What's happened more recently is the Residents Association of Mount Pleasant has claimed that the city of Vancouver now, under the mayor, Gregor Robertson, is actually weakening the view corridors and is diminishing people's views of the city by allowing too much development, particularly as you look down the hill along Main Street toward the Olympic Village. So what's happened recently is the Residents Association of Mount Pleasant, and Stephen Bohas is the person who's really driving this action, has actually filed legal action in BC Supreme Court and claiming that the city has not been following its own view corridors. It's quite complicated, but very interesting to watch. So now the city has 21 days in which to respond to this action, and it's going to be fascinating to watch because we're also in an election year, and this is going to put the pressure on the city. It's the second action taken against the city recently by residents with concerns about what's happening. In the last one, you had the Cedar Party, its leader, Glenn Chernin, who's running for mayor, filing an action in BC Supreme Court, making allegations about Gregor Robertson in connection with the leasing of office space, city office space, to Hootsuite. So there's two actions now that the mayor is dealing with and the city. I have a hunch that this won't be the last we hear of that. Now I'm going to switch to a positive news story, and it was a downtown East Side artist named Jace Saloom, who's won a Governor General's Award in Visual and Media Arts. And Jace is a very interesting figure in Vancouver. He's been working in the downtown East Side for nearly 2 decades. He's helped downtown East Side artists and been a mentor. And he's also done work in the Middle East, in Afghanistan, and a lot with First Nations. So his big thing is bringing the voices of oppressed people forward. So he's a multimedia artist. He does installations. He does films. In 1990, he did a documentary that was highlighting how the Western media kind of stereotypes Arabs, and part of the reason he was interested in that subject is that he was born in Kelowna. His parents were born in Canada, but his grandparents came from Syria. So he's of Middle Eastern descent, and so he's made quite a few pieces of art that highlight how Arabs are stereotyped. In one case, he did something quite controversial, was he interviewed a resistance fighter from Lebanon who had been in jail for 10 years, and then she came out. She had been convicted of attempting to assassinate a Lebanese general. Well, what happened was he did this film, and then there was a show at the National Museum of Civilization scheduled, and what happened was 9/11, the suicide attacks on America. And so the museum wanted to delay the show, but then in the end, the Prime Minister at the time, Jean Chrétien, criticized that and said that the artworks of Arab Canadians should be shown, and it drew a lot of attention to his work at that time. Later on, he did a big workshop project that went for over 2 years with First Nations youths in Kamloops. And then when the city of Kelowna was celebrating an anniversary, he was from Kelowna, that they were going to show one of his films. But it was about the First Nations, the residential schools experience, the suffering of the First Nations, the near genocide that took place, the fact that many were wiped out by disease, and the city of Kelowna didn't want the film shown, so he was censored again. And at that point, there was a lot of criticism of the decision by the city, so another venue was found, and the film was shown. But it shows he's a controversial artist, but he's also an important artist. His works are held by the National Gallery, Centre Pompidou in Paris, and he's now been recognized. He was joking to me in an interview that now he's a senior artist. He had always been an emerging artist before, and I think it's something that the neighborhood in the downtown east side can take real pride in. So with that, I think I'll finish this week's segment on WOW TV. Thank you very much for watching. I'm Charlie Smith of the Georgia Strait.
感谢收看今天的大温故事，我们下期再见。